no semblance of safety ever. That being said, the center is closed, and spoiler alert, my king never castles either. I'm not going to castle queenside. It's mano y mano. We're both in here. We're both in the cage. This is round 5 of the Lehigh Valley Open. I entered this round with 2.5 points out of 4. So my only loss was to a 2200 and a draw against a 1700. So I was hoping to end this tournament with a win against someone slightly higher rated than me and gain a few rating points, hopefully. And yeah, that's that. The time control is game in 30, delay 5, so pretty quick for a regular rated tournament, but it is what it is. So let's see here. So he played e4, I played c6, and he plays the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. And there's 2 main ways to play, bishop f5 and c5. I used to play bishop f5, and I still do on occasion, but for the most part, I stick with c5 now. I find that people don't have as much experience against it, and it keeps the game a bit more fresh. He actually plays a major sideline, a move that I've never seen over the board, is bishop e3. Like, usually the opponent will reinforce the center either with the knight or c3. Actually, my opponent, Matthew O'Brien, in some over the board game, I think, I'm trying to remember, I think he might have played like knight f3, and then after takes, he eventually played like queen h5 at one game, and then also in another game he played like queen here and then like queen f4. So there's lots of different ways to play, and then of course you can also reinforce center the normal way, which with c3 as well. There's lots of different ways to play, but bishop e3 isn't very common, and I know that the move knight h6 is a move, and the game gets very, very interesting. So already we're breaking so many opening principles. One is don't move the same pawn twice in the opening. I guess, sometimes you can move the same pawn if you're like gaining more space in the center. But in this case, I played c6, c5, and then he moved his bishop out before he moved any of his knights. And then I put a knight on the rim. Like, you're not supposed to put your knight on the edge of the board like this, especially when I have other pieces that I can develop. But the idea is, like, if he just plays c3, I want to put my knight on this nice square on f5, attacking his bishop, and maybe later I can develop my light squared bishop. That's the idea. And I'm kind of like waving a red flag, saying, "Hey, take my knight," and he does. He takes my knight, doubling my pawn. So I moved my c pawn twice. I developed my knight to the edge of the board, giving myself doubled isolated pawns. I look like someone who just learned how the pieces move. But it's a really interesting opening, and I know that this is not bad for black. Roughly. So knight f3 and knight c6, we both develop our knights. I think I was a little bit worried. I was like, after I played knight c6, I was like, oh wait, am I okay? He can't take on c5, right? And the answer is no, actually. The e-pawn gets really weak. I can easily pile up pressure on it with bishop g6, bishop g7. And if he tries to defend with like queen e2, I have queen c7. I could and this e-pawn is, you can't add any more defenders to it. You could, that's it actually. I guess you could go here to pin the knight. But then I could still probably go queen c7, and if queen e2, bishop g4, and this is probably the way you make sure to win the e-pawn. So I second guessed myself a little bit after I played knight c6, but then I remembered that it's all good for black. He plays c3, I play rook g8. So now if his bishop ever moves anywhere, I can take the g-pawn and I'll be up a pawn and life is good. He plays knight bd2 here, and since his knight already moved, so his knight no longer has access to, how should I put this? His knight can no longer go to c3, so now I trade. So I clarify the center a little bit, and now his knight cannot go to c3. So I felt that was a good decision. And now I go queen b6, and I'm attacking this pawn, and this pawn is also hanging, and there's no way to defend both of them. And it's really hard for white to make a move already to defend everything. I think knight b3 is really the only choice because like I think white would love to just give up the pawn on b2 and just castle, and you know black's king is stuck in the center and white probably has compensation for the pawn. But here, of course, whoa, holy moly, I'm breaking my computer. Okay. But here, of course, that's not possible because if like bishop d3, then I'm taking the g pawn and, you know, I'm still going to be up a pawn regardless. So that's why in this position, knight b3 is the only move. And now I get a little bit, I create a threat with the move e6. And he no longer has a dark square bishop, and I do, which means that his king can be a little susceptible to checks. And especially since he's 2 moves from castling either way, he can't avoid it. And my threat is bishop b4 check, and there's really nothing he can do to stop it. Like, I really think he needs to play a3 here. But if he does play a3, I'm going to go a5. Like really, what is white going to do? If white goes queen c2, then keeping eye on the knight, because if queen d2, then of course this knight is hanging. So queen c2, then after a4, after the knight moves, this pawn is hanging. So like it's really hard to hang. So I already feel like it's kind of hard to play as white. But the thing is, he goes g3 to try to develop the bishop this way and also blunt the rook's vision on the g pawn. I guess he could still develop his bishop this way, but it's not so clear. I think more likely the g3 move is just made to stop the pawn, the g2 pawn, from hanging after this bishop moves. But now it allows me to go bishop b4 check, and there is no good block. If you block this way, I gain the center, and after you lose this pawn, you're likely going to lose the e5 pawn too. And really, there's not much to be done here. Like even if you go queen a4 check, like everything's bad. Like it really leads to nothing. So it's tough to say. I mean, also in this position, if you do go f4 to defend your e5 pawn, then queen e4 check with the pin. The knight is pinned to the king here, and we pick up the rook in the corner. I guess you could go here. And then there's this check here, picking up this bishop. I wonder, you could maybe even also throw in this move as well. Oh, but no, then there's this check, never mind. So, it's very interesting, but this should be winning for black. So, but he ends up making a crazy move. King e2. Now his king is in the center, and it's going to stay there forever. Like, it really has no semblance of safety ever. That being said, the center is closed, and spoiler alert, my king never castles either. I'm not going to castle queenside. It's mano y mano. We're both in here. We're both in the cage. And I go bishop d7, potentially using my bishop on this diagonal. Maybe also potentially castling. He doesn't know that I'm not going to castle yet. So I could castle if I wanted to. And then a5. Honestly, at this point, I did not, even though I say I'm not going to castle, during the game, I was definitely considering it as an option. Especially if he can't get his rook in the game. If I can utilize both my rooks by castling and he can't because he can't castle, then I will definitely consider it. So I was actually considering, even though I said I'm not going to. I was considering during the game. And he plays a3, force my bishop back, and he plays rook c1. So these moves are logical, kicking my piece back from controlling his territory, moving his rook on the open file. It makes a lot of sense. And here, I thought for the most amount of time here. Actually, not the most amount of time, but for a long time. Let me see. Yeah, I thought for 5 minutes on this next move, a5. And what I was calculating was, if I decide to castle, can I utilize the fact that my rooks are connected while his king is stuck in the center? And the answer I came up with was no. So he could go bishop h3, king b1 to get out of this pin and to my rook on c8, then king f1, rook c8, king g2. And I was trying to evaluate this position, and I was like, this is definitely better for black. The bishop on h3 sucks. Like, this bishop sucks. And like my rooks are connected, but he's gonna go queen, knight c5 maybe, and queen up, and then now his rooks are connected. So that's not really relevant at all. So I didn't feel like my piece coordination was good enough, especially like his king was stuck in the center and now it's safe on g2. Like, what am I doing? This does not seem right. Well, that being said, I can still go h5, h4, and I'm still going to be attacking him. So, but it definitely seemed way too unnecessary and really slow to castle in this position. So that's why I decided to throw everything out in the wind and just play a5. Just play a5. And he plays queen d3. And, okay, I got an instant rewind here. a5. What's the idea behind that? Let's go a4. And this knight is in front of a b pawn that's undefended. Also, if this knight moves backwards, for example, well, then this d4 pawn is going to be hanging once again. So I definitely was considering this move a5. Or I definitely thought this a5 move was strong, which is why I played it. He plays queen d3 though, and that move shocked me. I was like, you can play that? I mean, like, honestly, I don't know what else you play. Like, you could play rook here, and then after a4, knight c5? Maybe? So then if bishop takes, pawn takes, and now the queen's attacked, and the b pawn is defended, maybe this is the way you go for. And, like, if queen a6 check or something like that, you just go, like, either king e3 or king e1, and you just vibe. Like, maybe that's the way to go. But queen d3 was crazy, and I was trying to figure out a way to make knight takes e5 work. And I thought in this position for 13 minutes. We start with 30 minutes per side. I thought for almost half my time here on knight takes e5, and my conclusion was I don't know. That was my conclusion. That was it. That was my conclusion. So spoiler alert. I recorded this video already, but apparently I either deleted the file somehow or my memory was full on my laptop. I don't know. But for some reason, I recorded it and I'm re-recording now. So I actually do know what the computer says. But I'm going to tell you what I thought first, and then I'm going to tell you what the computer says. Okay, so I was trying to calculate knight takes e5, because if knight takes, well, then after bishop b5, he's forced to block with his knight, and then we're going to win in exchange. Because I gave up a knight and a bishop, while he gave up a knight and a rook. So I'm going to be up in exchange, and this should be winning for black. And of course, if he takes with the pawn, it's even more winning because he has nothing to block the pin, except for his rook, which I can just take. But I couldn't figure out what happens if the queen takes h4. Because now my knight is hanging and my rook is hanging. And I was like, what in the world is happening? With my knight covering d3, now I can go queen b5 check. And if king goes back to e1 or d2, then knight takes f3 check. And I'm taking the whole house. I'm taking all of your money. Your life is over. But the issue is that what if he goes king e3? Like, what if he goes there? And I was thinking, okay, well, now I have this like knight g4 check. And then after king d2, I was like, what's happening? Like, what is happening here? I don't even know what's going on. So I was extremely confused. And of course, if I go like a move like bishop g5, well, then he can take. And now my rook's hanging, my queen's hanging, and life is bad. So I had no freaking clue what to think about this position. And also, he could go to king f4. And I was like, okay. But then that bishop d6 check, and then knight here. But then maybe I have check, check, and like queen a6 check. And if you go back, I go takes. And if you block, I have queen d1. And if you block with the bishop, I take your rook. Like, I'm like zigzagging, and it's like so close to mate here. I actually, oh my gosh, yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, queen trade. So, yeah, it gets nutty. And I spent like 12, 13 minutes trying to just figure this position out. So I think after this move, I thought all the way down to 9 minutes. Because I really wanted to play knight takes e5, but I couldn't make it work. I couldn't make it work. I told you what I said. I told you what the computer. I told you I would say what the computer said. Oh my goodness, English is hard. But I actually don't remember. It was some crazy engine line. Like, I think after queen takes h7, I think. Oh my gosh, what do you have to do again? I think I'm gonna turn on the engine again here for a second. Queen b5 check. If king e3, then there's queen takes b3, and after rook c5, there's bishop g5 check. Your queen's hanging, your knight's hanging, your rook's hanging. So after black takes, this is waiting because queen takes b2. And if queen takes the rook, then after king e7, and if you take the second rook, it's mate in 4 because of queen takes c3. Oh, the rook is hanging here. And it's going to be mate very, very soon. What is happening? Oh, you have to set it up. Set up the queen and bishop checkmate. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, I did not see that. I think, but the main move I didn't see in all my calculation, I'm turning off the engine now. The main move I didn't see was bishop g5 check. Like, that was the main move. Also, wait, queen d2 is different, or king d2 is different, because now, knight takes f2. That's the big thing. So, yeah, king e3, I really did not see bishop g5 check. Like, that was the main move I really didn't see. And even here, you don't have to take the knight first. You can also give a check first because after... Oh, it transposes. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. Because, it's going to be mate soon. And if you take here... Wait, how is it still mate? Oh, it's just better because you win the rook. And then I can probably castle if I want to. Oh, and take this pawn with check as well. So, yeah, I did not see that. I didn't... Like, this idea, this deflection of the knight away from the defense of the d4 pawn is something that, like, blew my mind when I first saw it. I just couldn't believe it. So I thought for 12 minutes here, 12, 13 minutes, on knight takes e5, and my conclusion was I have no idea what's going on. I have no freaking clue, so I just played a5. And I thought it made a lot of sense. Because, once again, I want to play a4 and either take on d4 or take on b2. Sorry. Here, I played a4. Played a4 here. This is the move I thought a long time about because it's after queen d3. So I played a4. And he probably shouldn't play knight d2 because I'm going to take on b2 and then take on a3 defended by my bishop. Holy cow, my email notifications. So after a4, he goes knight c5, which definitely makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking about whether or not to take the b2 pawn first or take the knight first. If I take the pawn first and after rook c2, my queen has a little bit limited squares, and more importantly, he has the option to take my light squared bishop, and my king feels a little bit weaker, but it's probably fine. It's probably fine. I did end up opting to play bishop takes knight, though. That's the move I decided to play, and I probably made this decision with 5 minutes on the clock. So I have 5 minutes for the rest of the game, and both our kings are still in the center, and it's wild. So he plays rook takes c5, I play queen takes b2, and he blocks. So I think blocking makes the most sense. I mean, I guess he could go king e3 maybe immediately. I don't think it's very similar to what happened in the game. But yeah, he blocks with the rook. I go queen b3. My idea was that if he takes, then this pawn on a3 is undefendable. Like, and his rook's hanging right now. It's undefendable, so I'm going to win this pawn. I'll be up 2 pawns in the endgame. I can go king e7, double up my rooks maybe, and I'm doing quite well. My doubled pawns are doubled b, or my 2 extra pawns are doubled b pawns, but that might be good enough. Or that should be good enough, I should say. So he plays rook c3, and then I play queen b2, and I have like 3 minutes at this point. I have 3 minutes for the rest of the game, and really, I don't know what I would have done, because after rook c2, I have to decide with 3 minutes, like, if I'm going to push for win or not. I would like to think I would have brought my queen back to b6 and pressure d4 still and try to get my rooks into the game and all of that jazz. But the issue is, like, I just don't know. There's a good chance I would have just repeated moves here and went queen b3 and, you know, rook c3, queen b2. Like, I just would have repeated moves. But he doesn't make me choose. He says, king e3. Wait, hello? He says king e3. There you go. He says king e3, and he's saying, you got so little time. I'm just going to go bishop e2 or bishop h3 and bring my other rook into the game. And my king's in the center, but there's no way for you to attack it. I'm playing this for a win. But the crazy thing is, adjust? Why do I look so white? Okay. The crazy thing is, though, black is winning for 1 move, and it's rook g4. And I'm threatening checkmate. Like, basically, like, rook e4 check, and the king has nowhere to go. And he would have to give up his queen. And if you go knight d2 to defend the e4 square, open up the f3 square for your king, block off the queen's vision from e2, that would be losing because of rook takes d4. And I'm attacking the queen, I'm attacking the knight. And like and white is down 2 pawns now, and it's about to be down a 3rd pawn with knight takes e5. So white really doesn't have any options. So they can't go knight back. So he decides to play rook c2. Cuts the queen off of the 2nd rank. But now I play queen b6. And after bishop h3, now I play rook e4 check. And the king is forced back, and now this d4 pawn is hanging. I just take it. Simple. It's very important here that after rook c2, you do not throw in this in-between move, rook e4 check, because the queen can just take. Desperado. Because if I take white's queen or white's rook, then the queen goes back. And if I take the queen, then he takes my queen, and I take his knight. But count the material. He has 2 rooks. I have 1, so he's up in exchange, and he's gonna go on to win this game. So that's why you have to go knight b6 first, or queen b6 first. I mean, that's not a knight, that's a queen, and then go rook check, and then take the pawn. Very, very important. And this position is absolutely winning. He uses up all his time here and just plays king c1. There's not much to do in this position. I take the rook, he takes back, and now I get my last rook into the game. And I just want to say, like, this rook on a8, helping the pawn push, and then eventually coming to c8 for the final blow. Meanwhile, the rook on h1 never moved. That guy never moved for the entire game. That guy wanted to play, but he was on the bench. And after the king moves, I go queen b3 check. Apparently there's a mate somewhere. Where is the checkmate? Oh yeah, queen takes f2, I think. And white's gonna get checkmated. I just play queen b3 check because I'm like, I know the endgame's winning, and I have like 1 minute on the clock, like literally 1 minute on the clock. And he plays, but he doesn't. He knows the endgame's losing, so he just plays king d2. But then he resigns here because it's gonna be mate the next move. Because if here, then rook c8 or rook c1 checkmate with the rooks and the queen, and I win. So I end the tournament with 3.5 out of 5. I tie for the top under 2,000 rated player, and yeah, won $40, which is not a lot, but could be worse. So I think this game was absolutely nuts. It's not very often where I get to just double up my pawns and play rook g8, and then also just like play on both edges of the board. It's freaking awesome. And that being said, though, it's not. I think he could have played a lot better. I think he should have made me decide whether or not I wanted to repeat moves. Like, he should have just played rook c2, rook c3, rook c2 until he made me decide on whether or not I go to queen b6. Because now he allowed me to keep my queen on this active, on his second rank. You know, that's way too dangerous to allow. So I think he should have repeated moves. But I mean, I think part of it was that I was so low on time and he wanted to win. I think that was a big part of it. But yeah, I get a win, and it felt pretty nice and everything. And I got lucky. Took a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work, but I pulled it through. So I'm going to hit game review, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.